We're down in Portsmouth with Ben Metcalf from Land Rover Marine, and this is actually his own boat, which is a Boston Whaler 24 Outrage that I have to say looks effectively brand new, but I don't think that was always the case, was it?
No. So it's an older boat. It's 1996, and I bought it as a trade. It was traded into Princess Motor Yacht Sales, and I bought it from them for around £15,000.
So somebody who's upgrading to a newer boat traded it in,
yeah,
and so it was kind of excess to Princess's requirements.
Exactly, and it spent most of its life in Mallorca. So obviously, you know, a lot of boats that spend all their time abroad become quite sun faded. All the upholstery had become quite brittle and cracked. It was very powdery, the gel coat. Lots of scratches, just the usual thing that you'd actually really probably expect. I think at some point in its life, when we stripped it back, I think at some point it had probably sunk as well, or at least filled with water. So yeah, I mean, but I've owned boats before, and I've always bought fairly newer ones, but then I've always ended up having to do lots to them, or not necessarily lots, but stuff to them to make them feel like mine.
Right.
And so what I've done with this is we got an old boat that really did need stripping down and starting again, which meant on the rebuild process I can completely make it mine and be sort of unique to me. So it's kind of like a resto mod is what we ended up doing to it.
So were you deliberately looking for an older, slightly tired boat?
To be honest, I wasn't really sure what I was looking for, apart from what I did want was, so my current boat was, the boat I used to have was slightly larger. It was only 30 foot, but it wasn't towable on the road, so it meant that it was on a marina, and it just meant I was restricted by wherever we wanted to go for a weekend holiday. It had to be from that base. Whereas what I was looking for was a boat I could actually explore different bits of the UK in.
Towing it behind a car?
By be able to tow it behind a car, and this on weight wise literally came just within my limit. So with the trailer and the boat itself dry, it's 3,200 kilos, so it allows me to have a few hundred litres of fuel and a bit of water on it as well.
It's about 3.5 tons for boat and trailer
combined on the back of a car. And this, so basically the reason I got this, it had a good hull, solid hull, which we tested and made sure everything else was falling off it at the time, but also it was in the weight spec, and it kind of fitted the bill for me to try and do what I wanted to do with the family and everything.
Well, let's have a look at the boat in more detail now. So this, I presume this wasn't the original colour, this?
No, so it was all white with red decals on for the Boston Whaler Outrage. Some decals I'm still waiting for because they're coming from the States, and various sort of complications with import and what have you have delayed that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, we've sprayed it a metallic grey, and then also, because although it's an epoxy paint, so it's very hard, but you still get fender burns or little scuffs and scratches, because that's what happens on boats, doesn't it? It's a boat. So what I've also done, which is a bit of an experimental thing for us, is I've got a film that's generally used for high-end cars. It's like a gel film that goes on bumpers or areas like that. So if there's a scuff, you heat gun it and it moulds back together. So ideally takes out all the fender burns, or if I do come against the pontoon or under the trailer.
Self-healing.
A self-healing skin, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can feel it's a bit gel kind of feel to it, or a soft feel to it, but yeah.
Well, that'd be really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah.
And the gel coat itself, is that the original gel coat?
That's the original gel coat on the hull. The console had so many adaptations through its life of new bits of electronics and things people have bolted onto it, that basically we just stripped everything off the console. Well, the console came off the boat, because the boat, when we took it apart, everything came off, including the deck, so all we were left with was a hull and a fuel tank. That came off, and we basically filled it, faired it, and that was resprayed, because there was so much gel work to do on that. It was easier to spray it than do that. This is just the original gel work that's been polished up, cut and polished.
So very glossy still. So if you just cut back, polished,
Yeah, we actually had to wet and dry it because it was so powdery from being in the med for so long that we actually wet and dry it to get a sort of fair layer. And with it being an older boat, it's got slightly thicker gel coat than perhaps some of the newer ones, because at this point when they were building boats, they weren't really fully aware of the limitations of it. So
they build it heavy, but that means there's enough thickness to actually cut back the gel and still get that glossy finish.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Original stainless steel, that's all just buffed up?
Yeah, original stainless steel. It's been polished, and same with there. A couple of things that we've done. We've obviously changed the cushions.
Well, let's get on board maybe. Let's have a
right.
look at some of the detail.
Yeah.
So I can see it looks like you've changed some of the upholstery. What have you gone for here?
So I've gone for new upholstery and new cushions, or new foam, inside. So it's obviously the closed cell foam that allows water to go through. I've gone for this colour and this style because in my head I'd seen on the internet this photo of this amazing Mercedes which had a metallic grey bodywork and brown leather interior. Vintage car, and I thought, I'll try and go for that vintage look. And what I found is this is a kind of love it or hate it thing. I've got some friends that think it's lovely and some people that don't like it at all, but for me, because I've thought about it so much, I like it because I've got really
nice. So you've got this kind of diamond quilted effect.
Yeah. And so, although it's a resto mod, I've tried to stay within how the boat was originally designed as much as possible. So, for instance, I managed to track down the original cool box that it came, which was new. So this was traditionally a fishing boat, used for sports fishing. Yeah. And so it's got lots of rod holders, but obviously all the drains for those were broken, so they're all replaced and they come out just by your feet there now and then.
Deck shower, is that?
Yeah, we added a small deck shower in there. So
hosing down the boat, or people, or fish guts, or everything?
Everything really, yeah.
Plenty of storage under here?
Yeah, we've got storage under there. Fitted a ultra. Yeah, of course, you're more than welcome. So just fold this back.
Okay, so.
Yeah, that's where I just generally store.
And either a live bait well or a.
Yeah, but you got live bait well either side, and there's a pump to circulate it if you want to. But I'm not that into fishing. I'd rather just use it for storage of covers.
Fair enough. Very clean in there, though. And then anchor locker, that's not an original anchor, surely?
No, that's an ultra anchor, which it's meant to be one of the best holding capacity anchors, and
one of the most expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive, but yeah, I mean, the budget, it's like everything. When you start to get involved in something, the budget tends to go out the window somewhere halfway through. But
so what was your original budget when you were looking at restoring this? You paid?
So I paid just under 15, and my plan was to spend no more than 10 on it, because I'd seen on the internet that these boats in good condition were selling somewhere around 25. So I thought, well, if I do that, then I'll always get my money back.
And you ended up spending
35
in total.
In total, no, 35 in total. So yeah,
I'm over budget by about 10 grand.
Yeah, that's not great, but it's but at the same time, you know what? It's exactly what I want. It's something I'm going to keep for 5 or 6 years. It's also essentially everything is new on it. It's new electronics, completely refurbed and built engines.
Which, shall we go and have a look at the engines?
Yeah, of course.
Now, if I didn't know better, I'd say those look like brand new engines, but there's one fairly major giveaway, and that is that these are the original two-strokes, are they not?
These are the original two-strokes. There's a couple of reasons I chose to rebuild these. Firstly is cost. Although I blew my budget anyway, if I were to put a replacement pair of engines on, excuse me, I would have been way over budget and would never even had a chance of recovering any sort of.
I mean, what does a 200 horsepower engine cost now? Best part of 20 grand?
Yeah, I was going to say nearly 20. So you've suddenly got £40,000 worth of engine and rigging on the back.
These were included in the original.
These were included in the original price, but I didn't have much history on them. I didn't know much about them. They ran. They were a bit lumpy. They didn't run quite as I would have hoped. So we literally stripped them into their component pieces. Everything that was sprayed we sent off to be sprayed and blasted and sprayed. All the graphics, which I couldn't find, I had scanned off the old engine lid and remade, so they're essentially as close as we can get to the original graphics. And at the moment we're just running them in, but they are you know, we're not exceeding 4,200 revs at the moment in them, but they are running brilliantly, perfectly. And the other reason I wanted to do it, because, you know, the V6 two-stroke sounds really cool.
I've got to say, there's something about a two-stroke engine, and they're so torquey.
The instant power! I'd forgotten, because most of my boats previous, you know, although I've been into boating for 30 odd years, I've been driving 4-strokes most of the time, and I'd literally forgotten how quick they deliver the power when you put the throttles down.
Can we lift the hood and have a little look underneath?
Yeah, of course, yeah, no problem.
Oh my goodness.
So that, we couldn't replace that bit actually, so that's probably a bit naff. Can you avoid that bit on the camera?
But that's just a cracked
casing, but we couldn't get a new casing.
Absolutely. So all of this was stripped down, blasted off, resprayed.
Yeah, the heads.
Everything that you can see that's painted.
The heads were off. So the tray was out. So the inside of the tray, the heads were off. The carbs were off. We've still got to balance the carbs, because part of that, you know, part of obviously when you're finishing things off, as things bed back in, it all sort of So I mean, they're pretty good, but it just needs a little bit of balancing.
And new piston rings, new liners. What do you have?
New piston rings. So basically we checked the compression. So not every piston had new rings, but most of them did in the end.
Yeah.
Just if there was any sign of wear. The heads we sent off to be milled and sorted out, and all new. Forgotten the name of them. Valves.
Right.
Seated and sorted out. So.
Very nice. So 2.6 litre V6, two-stroke, 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
And what kind of speed are you getting out of the boat?
Well, at 4,200 revs, we're getting just a tiny bit over 40 knots.
And what do you think she will do when you've got, what are they read to?
6.5 is their limit. So I think we should be just about seeing 50. I would have thought something like that. That's plenty quick enough. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. And shall we have a bit of a look at the helm?
Yeah, sure.
So this looks like it's a bit of a mix of old and new. Is that right?
Yeah. So it is a bit of a mix of old and new, although most of it is new. The only sort of original bits are some of these dials. Some we had to replace because the sun had actually warped the screens. It got so hot where it had been based and what have you, and then gone hazy, so you couldn't see through them. Right. But they're sort of the dials that suit the engine. So we've basically got a pair of tachos that give the revs, a fuel management system, which I try to not look at very much, and speed and fuel tanks. 700 litres on this boat.
Ouch.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
that disappears quite fast with it.
It goes a lot quicker than I'd hope, but yeah, it's boating. But
now, what about the wheel and throttles?
So throttles. The original Boston Whalers used to have, or the very original ones in the sort of 70s and 80s, used to have Morse controls. And so, although this came with a set of Yamaha controls, they again were very faded and tatty. So what we did is took the electronics and put them onto this to kind of make these now the controls to hark back. Nice. We took out the original ignition system, which was keyed one with a kill cord, yeah. And we've fitted this system here, and which is has, you know, as you can see around my neck, it's a coast key.
I've got one on my boat. They're brilliant. So it's a wireless kill cord.
Wireless kill cord.
You can move around the boat, but if you fall overboard, it will cut the engines just like a normal one.
Exactly. And also, if you want to start or stop them, you know, you can start and stop them from here. So with them being a choke, I can either go to the back, pull the choke, and start and stop them from here, or we've wired these in so it controls the chokes. Yeah, well, you can hear them click on the engine there. So because that was the only way we could do it, because these are really meant for 4-stroke engines as opposed to 2-stroke.
Now this looks like a classic Boston.
Yeah, so that's original. Yeah. We rebuilt the steering boss because it was a bit wobbly and everything else, and we made the wooden bit because that was plastic originally, and that was a bit tatty. And then from Ray Marine, we've got their latest VHF and plotter and fish finder as well. So we've got quite a
oh, very nice. All touchscreen.
All touchscreen, yeah.
Very cool.
But it's got the 3D view of the bottom.
Now, some of these don't look entirely original. I'm not sure the early ones had underwater lights, did they?
No.
Colour changing ones and courtesy.
Yeah, no, we've got colour changing underwater lights linked to the Fusion by DMX, so it can
music.
be, yeah,
so it changes.
It can if you want it to. I know it's
Very
a bit
flash.
It's not really me, to be honest, but I just had them and thought that's what we should put on. So and then we've obviously put the bimini, and we've got the bimini lights here, and we've got concealed lights around the outside, and we've got courtesy lights that just light up right around the interior of the boat as well.
What have we got in here?
So this is just general junk and storage. It was a lot smaller. Obviously got where the Raymarine charts go in. We've got from Scanstrut the charging port where you just put so you just put your phone in and
Very cool.
auto charges through that, and then everything else is just junk and drinks holders not yet fitted. There is still work, it's
that's the first thing
exactly. Well, we fitted two at the back, but I just didn't know where to put them here until I sort of used it a bit. So
and then there's a little cuddy cabin.
Yeah, so we fitted out in here with it's fairly similar to how we fit out a high-end boat. So we've got a headlining that matches all the upholstery around. We fitted a full breaker panel here that gives us domestic and engine battery voltage. So actually that's something we split the batteries instead of it just so there is a domestic and engine batteries. We've got inverter, we've got 240 volt, a fair bit of storage.
And all this woodwork looks a bit fancy. Is that original?
No, this is all stuff that we've done. So it's walnut and oak. So all the paler wood is the oak, and the darker wood's the walnut. And we've put these little shelves in and various storage lockers. There is a portaloo in here if someone's caught short. It's just, but generally it's just where everyone throws their bags, and it just becomes a big.
Keeps it dry.
Yeah.
Space.
Exactly. And my daughter, if she's swimming, will come in here and get changed or dry off and stuff, because she can just about stand in here.
The rest of us just drop our keks on deck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now you've done the whole resto mod, do you feel it was worth it? You bought it for 15, you spent 20 grand on it. Total boat owes you 35. What is it that makes it worth it for you?
I don't know if you're like me, but I like doing projects, and I have a number of projects, and so part of the fun is doing the project, but generally towards the end where I'm starting to think, will this ever be finished? I'm getting fed up of it and all the rest of it, and it happened with this boat, and I was thinking, you know what, I'll cut my losses and I'll get it on the market when I was getting towards the end. And bear in mind, my original concept for buying it was being able to tow it around different parts of the country, so I could see different bits of coastline. My first trip on it, I towed it down to Cornwall, to Foy, and if you wrote a wish list of what you wanted in a boating day, it was beautifully sunny, it was mirror calm, and we had dolphins joining us and jumping in our wake for about, a nautical mile or so, and so it suddenly was like, oh yeah, that's why I like boating. And so it sold itself straight to me as soon as I'd done what I built it for, and then all that sort of thought of the stress and the cost actually disappeared. And I know I'm going to make, this isn't a money-making boat. I know I've lost money on it, but...
Do you think so though? But do you think you could... I think you could sell this for 35, couldn't you?
Well, to the right person, someone who appreciated what's the time and effort that's gone into it. It's like a classic car, isn't it? There's so much, if someone's really passionate about it, they put so much more into it than its actual monetary value. And I've done the same with this boat, but I think my plan is to try and keep it for the next 4 or 5 years and enjoy it, and then it becomes relatively cheap. Because we spoke earlier, the other thing is if I bought a new boat of this size, well, I couldn't afford a new boat of this size because it's 100,000 plus.
It would definitely be 100,000 plus, because the other thing is, it is a Boston Whaler, which is a very desirable, premium, let's face it, expensive boat.
Yeah.
And you bought an older boat very affordably and brought it back to absolute sort of concourse condition, really. And as you say, it's not really about the money, but I think you would get that money back. Maybe. There seems to be a stronger market for people doing up boats. It's not really existed before, has it? Most people have just gone new boats, and boats have got older and older and older till they've been dismantled and
turned into parts. But yeah, there does seem to be more of a desire to do up boats now, and and I jumped on that desire because I've always wanted to do some. I like my projects, and sorry, going back to your question, I enjoyed the process of doing it till right towards the end when I was going over budget, and then the first time I used it, that slight bit of annoyance towards the end dissipated, and yeah, it was well worth it.
And almost because you've done that, you're more invested in it. You've kind of bought into the...
Yeah, totally. Just picking
the shelf item.
No, exactly. Everything I've chosen or been part of the process of either doing it up or replacing. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.